And here we see spawning the top right-hand corner of Whirlwind, the young Terran player. His name is Neeb. And Kevin, I think when people ask who's the best Terran in North America, I don't think Neeb is often at the top of that list. Most people usually say names like QXE or Illusion. And this is maybe unfair because this young guy
has been in Premier League for 2 consecutive seasons right now.
Which is more than we can say
about
for
almost anyone.
Any other North American Terran. You can throw the Muslim's name in that hat if you want, but the Muslim's from England.
The Muslim still loves his cup of tea.
Neeb's opponent over in the top left-hand corner of the map, the red Protoss player leading 1-0. He is representing Invictus Gaming. I'm sure his manager Edison is watching. Hello, Edison. We miss you. This is Jim.
Edison is a very good man. I had some recent contact with Edison.
Who was it that said Edison looked like a panda bear?
I have no idea. Maybe Edison himself?
It might have been Edison. But I think it was one of the players. I think it was maybe Jim or Max said. He's panda bear, that's what they would say.
Sounds like Max said.
Because Edison's a big guy. He's like probably 6'3", 6'4".
Yeah.
He's tall. He's very thick. You know, he's kind of.
He wouldn't be fighting in the welterweight.
No, he would not be a welterweight. And Kevin's got a little Volkswagen GTI, which you know, when Edison gets in, it's basically driving on 2 wheels at that point.
You can see Jim has found his opponent Neeb on the right top side of the map. Neeb once more gonna go with the Reaper expand. This is a build that Neeb loves in TVP. It's a build that he uses very often. Every now and then he busts out a small change, or like he does it a little different, where he gets the reactor first and then he gets a double Reaper opening. But perhaps he's a little bit afraid of this, you know, Stalker, Zealot, Mothership Core stuff.
If you had to wait for that reactor to finish before you built any units at all, then it would be...
It would arrive at your door immediately with full HP.
And all you would have to defend would be Reapers. And you'd be like, this is unfortunate.
I mean, once more, the start was perfectly fine for Neeb, and in the break, Ben and me were talking a little bit about the game as well. Something that I would have loved to see Neeb do is, like, Jim didn't have that many observers. I think what would have been super cool is if he would have been able to put the ghosts in a medevac, drop the ghosts behind enemy lines, and land an EMP on the sentries. Now, I know this sounds very far-fetched against all those Phoenixes and a couple of Stalkers that were there in the mix. But, you know, with the speed medevacs, I've seen crazier things happen. And if he then lands an EMP on the sentries when they're still together, you know, he would have been able to catch Jim off guard. And I think it could have gone a little better for him.
One thing that we can at least agree on is that Neeb has the best opening in the world. Reaper expand. And he's going to follow it up just like he did in game number 1. There's that reactor double marine. Bunker has not started yet, but the Reaper hasn't seen
a Zealot.
Exactly, so he doesn't need to freak out.
Jim's playing different, Ben. He's going to go 1-gate Robo. That's why I didn't make the Zealot perhaps either. Last game it was the Stargate before the Robo. It seems like this time he's not going for the Robo. I must say mad props to Jim once more, though. I know that, you know, I always show a lot of love to Jim, but that start was really not good. Then the Oracle, in my opinion, really did not pay for himself. But at the end of the game, it still looked like Jim, you know, just kind of won another PvT. Like, you know, it's part of the job.
Oh, well, I win again.
You know, when I've played PvT, of course, I'm not going to say that Protoss is weak against Terran or anything, because, you know, I know better than that. But
it's just that Roddy's Protoss is maybe not as strong as Jim's.
Yeah, no, you know, I do feel like I have to play a close to flawless game in the opening phases to be in a good economic position, and Jim is just like, well, kind of a rough start. It doesn't really matter. Chronobus had some probes. Oracle, well, didn't really pay for himself. Well, let me just make a couple of Colossus and I'm still going to hold you all in. It's just like, wow.
It looks very good for Neeb. Like, there's no other way to say it. He was in a phenomenal position, which makes that SCV pull that much more curious. But, you know, this is... you
know, if you think there is a window for you to win the game, you know, I can't blame him for just jumping on him.
Yeah.
Jumping on it.
I mean, had it worked, weid probably be praising it. Saying,
yeah,
oh,
we'd
man,
be like,
Neeb,
excellent read. Bomber, game sense.
Exactly, exactly. And it just, you know, didn't quite pan out. So, anyway, Neeb is going to once more march across the map with a handful of bio. This is before his first medevacs, before any upgrades. He just wants to take a little bit of map control, though, make sure that this mothership core is staying honest. Jim does a great job of always having observers on excuse me, on the relevant paths.
Yep.
So he sees this coming.
And your life is so much easier if you have some vision in PvT, man. So Jim made 2 observers before he started Immortal production. I think that is very wise. It's really not that greedy. Jim, you saw all those units making their way across the map, then actually stand on top of your ramp. He's using Photon Overcharge very early. It might be even a little bit too early. You can always at least let those units come to you a little bit. You know, then pick up 1 Marine, 1 Marauder. Might not seem like a big deal, but you know, Ben, eventually this 1 Marauder might get that final shot off on your Colossus, which make the difference between your Colossus reaching the high ground or not.
But there are no Colossi for Jim. He's going straight Immortal. Just 2 Immortals out, 3rd Immortal on the way.
Yeah, 2 additional gateways as well, so a little bit of an Immortal boss, it seems.
Yeah.
This is very strong, but also very all-in-ish. Like, you're gonna have to win with it.
But Neeb has no bunkers.
But Neeb also has no ID. That's perhaps a bigger problem.
Oh, now he's actually going to see it, so... immediately we should see him starting bunkers. We see more units coming down his ramp. And there we go. There's bunkers beginning. 2 of them on the way. I don't know if 2's going to be enough, though, Kev. He's going to probably want...
He might actually be able to pick up these stalkers, but also his units get zoned out. This is actually getting pretty rough right now for Neeb already. Losing a few bio units before he's able to get home. I'm quite worried right now for a North American Terran player. Because, you know, bunkers are pretty awesome, but against 3 Immortals, they are really not that fantastic.
They're about as good versus Immortals as Roaches are.
Fantastic.
Here we go. Jim's going to march right up the ramp, wasting no time at all. Doesn't even have a pylon completed. That reinforcing pylon's only about halfway done. Jim, I think, maybe knows that there's still units out on the map, or maybe he's just going to wait until he can make a couple more stalkers or a couple more sentries.
The longer this goes, of course, the better it will get for Neeb eventually. What I would really love is perhaps a couple of supply depots before the bunkers. Might seem like a little bit of a waste of money, but every second for him to survive right now counts. There is a lot more endurance in the army of Neeb with those medevacts than there is in the army of Jim. Jim kind of has like one big powerful push with his Guardian Shield and a couple of force fields, and from that point on he has to be so far ahead that he pretty much has to win.
I'm surprised that Neeb is willing to only do this with 2 bunkers. And with his SCVs not at the bunkers, here comes Jim. And this looks really scary to me. Zealots are up the ramp already. Neeb is never going to be able to repair these bunkers. And this might be a game-ending mistake. Time Warp's going to go down on top of the bio. Zealots do all die. Medevacs are going to help out a ton. But are there enough units here for Neeb?
Just not that many bio units remaining. Only 5 Marauders, 9 Marines. A lot of these Marauders are going to fall as well, retreating into the main base. Of course, Jim lost a few units here and there as well, but above all, those Immortals are still alive. The Mothership Core is still alive, and most of these expensive Stalkers are still alive. This looks fantastic for Jim. And Jim just kind of does what he does in Premier League, man. He makes it look kind of easy when he plays.
Sure does. I feel like this time that was a pretty terrible misread from Neeb.
I mean, he pulled the SCVs right on the wrong moment.
Yeah.
It was like a split second before. I would like to point out that Jim has a small follow-up in this as well. He did drop the Robo Bay. He made a few additional sentries. Neeb is going to make a final stand over here. The force field is kind of bad for Jim. He let too many SCVs squeeze through.
But Immortals are still well protected from behind. Marines are going to stream down. Neeb might clean this up.
Yeah. Of course, we have to ask ourselves the question, and I know that Twitch just loves this, man.
But at what cost? As the last Immortal falls. Really, at what cost to Jim? It might be the more relevant question. He's down to 58 supply.
But, I mean, 44 SCVs died.
Only 6 SCVs left for Neeb. I didn't realize.
But, I mean, army supply right now, okay, it's 24 against 30. He can just make a couple of force fields. The fact that he has 1 Colossus is really useful. He did lose his Mothership Core. I think Jim is like pulling the remaining 6 SCVs he has as well. No, he's not doing that. I mean, Neeb's army right now is pretty strong, but it's only Marine against Colossus, so that's going to get pretty tough.
Yeah.
Neeb has about like a non-existent 0.1 second window to somehow win this game.
Jim can always pull probes too, let's not forget. Those force fields.
Colossus is just not going to die against Marines.
Exactly. And he's just going to zap away, zip, zip, zip.
Or, well, I say that, and now this Colossus actually kind of exposed. This Colossus is going to die, but now a new Colossus joins in. That's not fair. So close.
Those Marines are like, we did it, we win! And then, oh, come on, Jim. GG gets called.